This is a 1990 GE VHS video cassette recorder. It is a mono 2-head unit. It was probably bottom of the line back when it was new, but it's still a fairly nice unit. The quality on this machine is very good. The picture quality and the sound quality is very good, especially after I clean the heads and clean the mechanisms in here. Everything is working very well, like this unit is brand new. Well, it's working as if this unit was brand new. It's 23 years old. In fact, last night I thoroughly cleaned out this unit. I took everything out, the mechanisms, the circuit boards, everything, and gave this a real thorough cleaning. And now it's working as good as new. It was already working very well before, but the video playback quality wasn't the best. So I decided to give it a little bit of a cleaning, and so that's all. So this unit, like I said, was made in 1990. In fact, inside the date code that is stamped onto one of the internal parts says May 2nd, 1990. And this was made, the parts of this machine were made over that month because different parts had different dates. Like, the motor said May 2nd, 1990. The mechanism said, like, May 26th. And the power supply, or the circuit board, I forget which one it was, but one of the two said May 14th, 1990. So different parts of this were made at different times. And there are also many different companies that made parts for this unit. The actual unit is branded as a GE. I don't know if they actually made the unit or if a different company made it. But inside here, the erase head was made by TDK, which is well known for making video cassette tapes and audio cassette tapes. But I did not know that they made erase heads or any other machine components. So that was a very interesting thing to find out. The backup battery in here for the clock was made by Sanyo. Of course, the battery is long dead. If I unplug this, it would not remember the date and the time, which is actually set right now. Let's see, it's Friday, 4:14 p.m. 4:15 p.m. now. One of the chips on the circuit board was made by Toshiba, and another chip on the motor board was made by, I think it was Samsung. And there were also some components, mainly capacitors and resistors, that were made by Philips. So yeah, Philips, Samsung, Sylvania, and TDK all came together to make parts for this unit. Like I said, I gave the unit a very thorough cleaning, so it looks as good as new now. I already did a rough cleaning of this unit, which I actually made a video of, because there was a crap ton of dust inside here, and I just took a vacuum and went inside and vacuumed all of the dust out. But it was still somewhat dirty, so last night I just took everything apart. I cleaned this front panel out, like I cleaned the inside of the front panel. Like I took the front panel off the rest of the unit, cleaned it out, cleaned the LCD display. At least I'm assuming it's an LCD display, and it's already appearing a lot better here. And I cleaned the buttons and everything, which were already fairly clean because they were under this door, so everything under the door didn't get very dirty. And then I also cleaned the mechanism. I took the entire mechanism out, cleaned it thoroughly, and re-lubricated it. And I very quickly, or not quickly, I very carefully cleaned the video drum. What I actually did, I don't know if this is a very good method, but I took a alcohol swab, like something that you'd put on your finger before pricking yourself with a needle or something, like something that they'd use before giving you a shot or anything. I took one of those alcohol swabs and very lightly pressed it up to the drum. Like, I didn't even put any pressure on it. And I slowly spun the drum to get all of the dirt on there, because there was actually a good deal of dirt and other gunk on the drum and on the heads. Now it's all clean, and it's as good as new. The thing that I actually learned with another unit, I had a crappy Magnavox VCR. It was made by Funai, so the quality wasn't very good. I found that when you have the alcohol swabs up against the drum, when the heads go by the swab, if you can feel the heads grabbing onto this swab and kind of pulling it, that means you're putting too much pressure. You just want to have it barely on enough that it can just barely touch the drum and clean it, but not hard enough that it's going to make the heads grab onto the swab, because then residue from the swab will get on the heads, like little fibers will get onto the heads, and if you're really unlucky, you might actually pull the heads or part of the heads out of the drum, and that's something you don't want to do. I did something similar for the erase head and the audio sync heads. I just rubbed them with alcohol swabs. Did the same thing with the capstan and the pinch roller and all of the tape guides, because there was a lot of tape gunk on them that needed to be removed. So luckily there was not any deterioration, and the pinch roller is actually still good. A lot of those pinch rollers start to crack and get glazed over time, but the pinch roller in here is still good. Just needed a good cleaning. And I also thoroughly cleaned the casing of this unit. Didn't polish it or anything, I just cleaned it, and that already made it look a lot better. I gave the power supply a good cleaning, because even though I gave it a good cleaning in the video that I made, there was still a good amount of dust that I had missed. So I actually took the power supply out of here and gave it a thorough cleaning. Luckily there are no bad capacitors in this unit, no bad electrical parts, so nothing needs to be replaced. I might go inside and replace the belt at one point. This is one of those units that only has a single belt to drive the capstan motor, and the capstan motor drives the idler. There's a single belt for that, and I might replace it because the playback's fine and the searching's fine, but the rewind and fast forward seem a little slow. That was the problem with this unit. It either wouldn't rewind at all or it would rewind very slowly. So I did all that, and I gave it a thorough cleaning. And now the unit is pretty much as good as new. So let me give you a little physical tour of the unit. I'm not going to take it apart or anything, because it was a pain in the butt to take it apart the other day, because I had to unplug about 1 million different plugs just to remove the circuit board and clean everything. There are a lot of circuit boards in here. There's one circuit board on the front panel for the display and all of the buttons on here, and that connects to the main board, which is up in this general area of the unit, which has the tuner, a single separate board, which is, I have no idea what it's for. I didn't take a close look at it. And that has several different cables, one of which, actually a couple of which go to the video drum, some of which go to the audio sync heads and the erase heads. Some of them go to the motors, to control the motors. There's like 3 separate boards just to control the motor. Then there's a tuning board. Then there's the power supply, which connects to the main board via a couple ribbon cables. And if I open up this panel, there's also well, if I can get the thing in there. If I open up this flap, you can see in the back of the unit, if the stinking thing will focus. There we go. It's trying to focus. But in the back here, you can see there's a decoder board that connects to the video drum. So it's probably a video decoder board. And there you can see some of the ribbon cables going from the audio sync head, and from the motors over to, that's actually one of the motor control boards. And right up there is the main board, part of it. And inside the unit, you can see here this is the video drum, and you can see, whoops, have to zoom out. You can see one of the video heads there, and then here are the tape guides, which again I gave a good cleaning. There's the pinch roller back there, which is still in relatively good shape. And then there's the capstan, another guide, audio sync head, some more guides. Right over there is the erase head, and even more guides, and then a little tension thing. Tension guide. Far more sophisticated than a modern VCR like that, and yet still very basic when compared to a late 70s or early 80s VCR. Just shows the evolution of the VCRs and the miniaturization process that they went through. Some of the first VCRs had, like, probably 10 circuit boards and a bajillion mechanisms to do a single thing. This one, it's down to just one large mechanism for the loading, and then one for driving the tape, and then about 5 or 6 circuit boards. And then that one, everything's down to a single circuit board, and again, a single mechanism for the tape transport, and then a single mechanism for the actual driving of the tape. So then, so on the front panel we have the tape flap, where you put the tape in, of course. Right in here, you can't really see it, but I think there's a remote sensor in here. This did not come with a remote, but the remote is probably completely optional. Every function needed to run the VCR is down here. And there's the LCD display. Well, I'm not sure if it's an LCD display or not. They use many different types of displays for these. And there's the GE logo and the model number. And then right here's the power button, the stop and eject button, tracking dial, channel select, then your VCR controls, cable TV button, program check button, then clock set, and then date and time sets. Then a line button to switch from the tuner to the line input, tape speed, OTR, one-touch recording, start and length, reset, and counter. The reset button resets the tape counter. That's all it does. Now, if we move on to the back of the unit, despite being such a thin unit, this thing is so heavy. The power supply alone probably weighs about 10 pounds. Probably not that much, but the power supply is relatively heavy. And then the mechanisms and everything else that make up this unit. This thing probably weighs a good 20 pounds or so. Made in Korea by Thomson Consumer Electronics. Risk of electric shock. Well, I've taken this machine apart and I've probably done things that would void the warranty and whatnot. But I didn't get shocked. One time I actually did shock myself when I was repairing a VCR. I accidentally touched one of the cables that goes from here to the power supply. I accidentally touched a bare connection on this cable that connects it to the power supply while it was plugged in, and it didn't hurt me or anything. It was just a really bad shock. And then right here you have your channel select for the output, your RF output, antenna input, then mono, video, and audio inputs. There's no stereo on this unit. You can even see I have a little, you can kind of see it, I have a stereo to mono converter back there. Kind of see it. There. It's a Y adapter that converts 2 stereo channels, or stereo channels into 1, or vice versa. Because my game systems go to that switch box there, which go out to this VCR here, which is a stereo unit that I usually use for recording. Nintendo's also hooked up to it. And that's what I use for recording, because it's in stereo. And then that goes out to the VCR here for dubbing and recording if I choose to. and the stereo signal is converted into a mono signal, so I get both channels in a single channel. And then up there you can see some ventilation grills, which is actually why this unit was so dusty, because so much dust had accumulated inside here. Let's move this back around. Time's still set. The backup battery in this thing is completely dead, so if I unplug the unit or the power gets cut off, it won't save the date and the time, and I have to reset it, which is fairly simple. You just press the clock set, you press the day until you get to the right day of the week, which you can barely see. It says Friday, and then you would use the time up and down to set the time. So let's turn the unit on, and then well, it's set to line right now. We can set to the tuner. Then you have your tape speed, SP, LP, or SLP. And then there's also a cable TV button. The tuner on here, on the normal TV mode, it goes from channel 2 to channel 83. And on cable TV mode, it goes from channel 1 to channel 99. Of course, both of those are useless nowadays because pretty much all broadcasting is digital, and this is only an analog tuner, so you won't really get much of a signal or much of a reception, except snow. You have to use a converter box or a cable box that your cable provider gives you. Most cable providers do not broadcast analog or provide analog cable anymore, so they'll give you a set-top box and it'll have video outputs to go to your VCR. Sorry about that. So now, let's put a tape in. Turn on the TV first. Let's set it to line so we don't have to hear any of that snow. And I'm going to show you two tapes. One's a pre-recorded tape. These are both test tapes that I use for trying out a new VCR. One for pre-recorded and one for recorded. So this is Star Wars. Now, one interesting thing about the tape counter on here, press the counter button and it'll bring up a tape counter. This will actually, when you put a tape in and you play it through and then rewind it, it will automatically stop rewinding when the tape counter returns to 0, even if it isn't completely rewound. If the tape isn't completely rewound, it will still stop it at 0. So if you want to queue up to a certain scene, it's easy to do on here, and I'll show you that in a minute. So the tape indicator appears, the play button appears. There we go. Picture quality is fairly good. It's especially good quality after I've cleaned the heads and everything. So, image quality is actually relatively good for a 2-head VCR. You can kind of see different things, pixels. It's somewhat blurry because of the video connection, but if you're actually viewing this, it doesn't look that bad. And then you have your tracking controls, which really just make the image fuzzy, unless it's in the center. You can pause the image. It's a little snowy. It actually looks better on camera than it does in real life, but you can pause it like that. There's no frame-by-frame advance like on that unit. You can advance in slow motion. Then you have your fast forward, which is quite snowy because this is a 2-head VCR. The 4-head VCRs, they didn't use the extra heads for SP. They only used 2 heads for SP, and then they used the additional heads for SLP, and for stabilizing the image so that you wouldn't get the snow that you get on here. And you can stop it. This is one of those VCRs that has the autoplay mechanism where you insert a tape and it automatically threads it around the heads and starts playing it, like that unit there. I don't like this as much as the older units, most of which weren't autoplay. You would put in a tape and it wouldn't do anything until you told it to. So it wouldn't thread the tape until you told it to play. But this unit, it keeps it threaded around the tape all the time. And now this is pretty cool. When I rewind the unit, it will stop rewinding as soon as the tape counter gets to 0. So, rather than fully rewinding the tape, it just returns it to the tape counter, or to 0. See, it's not entirely rewound quite yet. So now let's see how this handles a recorded tape. And some of the stuff on this tape was actually recorded using this unit. So you can kind of see the recording quality of this unit. So we should be getting an image soon. This video you're seeing right here was recorded on the unit. And ignore the distortion that's kind of appearing, like those black things that are appearing. I can't do anything about that. It's the CRT. Because as you know, a lot of times CRTs don't agree with camcorders. And right here it kind of gets snowy for a couple seconds. And then this is another recording I had made on it. I taped over a previous recording, which is why it got all snowy for a second. But this is a recording I made of Mega Man 2 on the Nintendo. And the image doesn't look that bad. Sound quality isn't that bad too, even though this is a lo-fi mono unit. Well, it stopped because I stopped recording there. And this is a previous recording I had. Well, for a couple seconds it's just a blue screen. But it's a previous recording that I had on here, which was also recorded on this unit. Snow for a couple seconds. There we go. Sound quality is not that bad. Funny thing about this, when I adjust the tracking and make it go out of sync, it makes it go out of speed too, so it starts getting wow and flutter. Just listen. When I adjust the tracking, listen to the... Just take a listen. You could hear some wow and flutter while I was fiddling with the tracking, which went away after I stopped fiddling with the tracking, which is kind of interesting. And just continues playing. And again, ignore the scan line that keeps appearing. Can't do anything about that. Now watch right here, this is actually pretty interesting. There's a little glitch here. This enemy right there just popped up and then it disappeared. I never understand that. It only happened when I did this recording. So, let's stop the tape. Wind it back to the beginning. Or at least to the beginning. Again, the tape hasn't fully rewound. It just went back to where the tape counter was at 0. See, the tape hasn't fully rewound. Which is a pretty convenient feature if you want to cue something up and show it several times over again. It's pretty convenient. So, that about wraps up this unit. It's a fairly nice unit for its time, even though at the time it was probably a bottom-of-the-line unit. It's relatively good quality, and it's definitely better than most of today's junk that they try to pass off as a VCR. There were definitely better options back when this thing was new, but it's still a fairly decent unit, and I really enjoy it. It's a nice VCR to have in the collection. along with that one and a couple other ones. So that's the GE model VG 2001 VHS 2-head mono VCR.